G'day guys, a new unit has been added to the Chaos Space Marine arsenal that a lot of people have not noticed, and it is an absolutely game-changing unit, absolutely broken and brutal. So I wanted to share that with you guys today so that you guys can start using this unit in your competitive games of Warhammer 40k. Introducing the Nemesis Claw.
Look for the Blood God.
G'day guys, before we get stuck into the video, I just wanted to show you these really cool blessings trackers by warhammerstation.com. If you'd like to pick up one, you can do so by commenting below with what you would like to see added to the blessings table. So which ability would you like to see if you could create another one yourself? So for example, you could have a reroll charges if you're able to roll 333+. Or you might have something like +1 to charge army-wide if you roll 2 5s. So give me your idea on what you think would make a really cool additional blessing, and then I'm going to select one person from that comment section, and I'm going to send them out one of these blessings trackers. So if you want to enter the draw to get one of these in your hands, all you got to do is chuck that comment below. With that being said, let's get stuck into the video. Alrighty guys, let's have a look at this Nemesis Claw unit and how freaking crazy it is. So you can see it's a standard legionary profile here, you know, it's movement 6, toughness 4, 3-up saves, 2 wounds, so on and so forth. Nothing too fancy there. It's also nothing too fancy in the ranged weapons, you know, bolt pistols, bolt guns, flamers, heavy bolters, melters, all the stuff you'd expect on a standard legionary unit. However, the melee weapons do get a little bit spicy, so they have access to accursed weapons, chainswords, close combat weapons, and then we get some interesting stuff here. So there's the Nostraman Chainblade, Nostraman, however it's pronounced, Nostraman Chainblade, which is essentially a chainsword with extra attacks and sustained hits, which means when you use your Dark Pact, you can just go for lethal hits on your Dark Pact, and you're going to get lethal hits and sustained hits, which is an amazing combo. You can also go with the Chain Glaive, which is only 4 attacks, but it's strength 8 AB2 with sustained hits. Really cool. And then you got your paired accursed weapons and your power fists. So some pretty cool melee weapons in there, but that's not the showstopper, and that's not why I wanted to do this video talking about this unit. What it is their abilities. So they've got stealth built in, so they're always going to be neg 1 to hit and your opponent's shooting, which is really cool. But then they have here Visions of Suffering, which is a psychic ability, which is each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit that's below starting strength, add 1 to the hit roll, and if they're below half strength, add 1 to the wound roll as well. So you're going to get +1 to hit against targets that have taken any damage at all. So you go shoot him with a plasma pistol or something, put a couple wounds on him, or kill a model or put a couple wounds on a vehicle, and now you're getting +1 to hit. And this is really important because it means that if you have reroll hits by putting, say, a Master Executions in the unit or having Abaddon nearby, now you're going to be hitting on 2s with rerolls. And why this is important is what that allows you to do is basically scoop everything that's not a sustained lethal, right? Whereas if you're hitting on 3s, you might not want to scoop those 3 pluses because you might convert them into 1s and 2s and end up failing. Whereas when you're hitting on 2s, you can go, cool, I'm going to roll all my attacks, I'm going to pull all my 6s to the side, they're my lethals and my sustains, and then I'm just going to reroll the whole lot of all of the other dice. And it really pumps up probability of you getting those sustained and lethal hits. So it's a really cool data sheet ability. But even that's not the main reason for this video. The main reason for this video is because they have something that I believe is unique in 40k that's absolutely busted, and that's this Wargear ability called Voice Eater, which is enemy units, excluding monsters and vehicles, cannot be targeted with stratagems while they're within engagement range of the bearer's unit. This is absolutely game-changing. This is so crazy. What this is going to let you do is prevent things like Armor of Contempt, prevent things like reactive neg 1 damage, prevent things like the counter-offensive interrupt stratagem. There's so many stratagems that your opponent is going to want to do that you can just be like, no, sorry, you actually just can't. And that means you can run Cypher down one side of the board, these guys down the other side, and you can just completely mess with your opponent's ability to use stratagems, right? So one of the ways that you can do this that's just a really clean example is you can charge this unit and, say, a unit of Chosen into like one big combat unit on this side of the board, and then you can charge another unit of Chosen, or some Legionaries with Lucius, or whatever it is that you've got, your other combat thing, a big possessed unit or Terminators. You charge that into another unit, right? So you've got two combats happening. And normally when this happens, you're in a precarious position because you're going to choose to fight with one, and then your opponent's going to spend 2 command points, and they're going to interrupt the sequence of combat, and they're going to fight with the other one. And that's a massive problem. Now, typically you want to get around this with Cypher in the past, because then it's 3 command points. But it's still possible. So if your opponent's banking their CP because they know you have Cypher, they know you're going to try to mess with their command points, so they're saving their command points so that when you do engage them in multiple fronts, they can interrupt you. Well, now you can just go, no, it actually costs effectively infinite CP because you simply cannot target that unit with the counter-offensive stratagem because I'm nearby. That's insane. That's such a flip on the math because now you're going to get to fight with everything before your opponent fights with anything, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's tons of stratagems that your opponent's going to want to do. There's also aggressive stratagems that they're going to want to do when they charge you. So for example, you might have this unit of Nemesis Claw behind a unit of Chosen or something, and Khan the Betrayer and his Berserkers charge the Chosen, right? You can then go, cool, I'm going to heroically intervene with my Nemesis Claw unit. They're going to touch those Berserkers, and now you can't target those Khorne Berserkers with stratagems, which means you can't put the +1 to wound on them, which means they're going to do significantly less damage into that target of the Chosen that they chose. So you can use it defensively in your opponent's turn, and you can use it aggressively in your turn to absolutely flip serious matchups. Being able to turn off Armor of Contempt, on Deathwing Knights or something like that, means that they're no longer anywhere near as scary because you can just push them straight to their invulnerable save with your AP2, and they can't do anything about it. There's tons of stratagems that people would like to use that, they sort of build their armies around, and that's because up until now, there's never been a way to definitively say no, So, for example, World Eaters player, I run a lot of, units that I rely heavily on neg 1 damage. If I'm in a certain combat matchup and they're about to hit me with a whole bunch of 2 damage attacks, I go, cool, neg 1 damage, I've just effectively halved the incoming damage. But if they throw in a Nemesis Claw unit and a unit of Possessed or Terminators or something that has a lot of 2 damage attacks, well, now it's like, oh my god, they're going to absolutely freaking run through me. Or you put a Chaos Lord in the unit and he goes in with his 3 damage Thunderhammer, he's going to pick up most of a Terminator unit, and there's nothing I can do about it because I can't reactively neg 1 damage because Nemesis Claw is in there. Absolutely brutal ability, this one, and it's on top of all of that existing stuff that I said was fantastic. And there's a few other really interesting things about this unit. So the first one is that anything that can attach to Legionaries can attach to this. So you can put a Master of Executions in there and a Chaos Lord in there. Really cool options there. The Wargear options are quite interesting. So the Visionary, that's like your squad leader, right? He can take a Plasma Pistol and a Power Fist, would be the way I'd wield him. And then any number of Legionaries can have a Chainsword, which everybody that doesn't take one of the special weapons is going to want to take a Chainsword. If the unit contains 10 models, you can give it a Heavy Bolter or a Missile Launcher. One Legionary's Bolt Gun can have a bigger Flamer, Melter Gun, Plasma Gun. And then up to 4 Legionaries can each have their Bolt Gun replaced with one of the following, and duplicates are not allowed. So you can give them a Cursed Weapon, a Nostraman Chainglaive, a pair of Cursed Weapons, and a Voice Eater. So you definitely want the Voice Eater because that's the this ability, right? And then you probably just go, cool, I want all 4 of those, right? And then the final guy would be your sergeant, your squad leader, right? So that means you have a Power Fist and a Cursed Weapon, a Chainglaive, a paired of Cursed Weapon, and a Chainsword on your 5-man unit. I would recommend running these guys in squads of 5. I don't think you need the 10. I think having a squad of 5 and then a squad of 5 of something else that's going to hit hard and running them in together, knowing that your opponent can't interrupt, so you get to fight with both units before them anyway, is a really, really powerful way of running the unit. And it also means that per point, you're getting more of these special weapons, because once you take that only up to 4, doesn't matter how big the unit is, only up to 4 can have those, and then every additional guy is just another chainsword guy. So you might want them for ablative wounds, but ultimately, I think you just take these in units in 5, and you wouldn't believe the cost for a Visionary and 4 Legionaries is only 110 points. So they're only marginally more expensive than a Legionary, but they bring with them some of the most insane abilities in the game. You know, being able to prevent your opponent from using stratagems is wild, you know. And then on top of that, being able to get hitting on 2s with full rerolls and sustained and lethals, these guys are going to put out serious hurt with those weapons as well. So I think this is an absolutely game-breaking unit in the right hands and in the right situations. It's not always going to be super relevant. You know, there's going to be plenty of situations where you don't need to deny their stratagems because all of their stratagems might be offensive stratagems that they use from range. In which case, what are you really denying here? You know, like against Tau and things like that, there might be situations where, you know, it doesn't really come into play. But certain matchups, particularly your combat matchups, where you've got that counter-offensive interrupt, is going to be super important, and having these guys be able to just shut down a stratagem is literally insane. It's so fucking good. So you can probably hear my 3D printer buzzing away in the background, because let's just say that there's going to be a few of these guys hitting the tabletops very soon, because the ability to interrupt your opponent's game plan by shutting down their stratagems is worth 50 points on its own. And then the fact that these guys have better weaponry and are able to do more melee damage than their Legionary counterparts. I know Legionaries get the reroll wounds, and that is absolutely fantastic. However, these guys, having a bunch of guys that have sustained and lethal hits, I think is probably going to be more or less the same, and they don't require the target to be on an objective to do it. So there's definitely a world where I think you fit 1 or 2 of these small units in a Chaos Space Marine list, and you run them around with your Chosen, with your Possessed, with your Legionaries, you know, wherever it is that you're sending your combat out, you run these guys as well. And worst case scenario, they're a slightly tougher Legionary unit because they have that stealth for neg1 to hit. So, you know, worst case scenario, they're a slightly tougher, harder to kill Legionary unit, which is fine, you know. Or worst case scenario, they're a slightly harder hitting Legionary unit. That's fine as well. But in those situations where you can go, oh, I can actually just charge them in, and now you can't use any stratagems, that's game breaking, you know. Against Tyranids with their 5-up reactive Feel No Pain, you can just go, cool, I'm charging these Legionaries in, I'm charging these Nemesis Claw guys in, you can't interrupt or activate your neg1, your 5-up Feel No Pain. So now I'm just going to fight with all of these guys, and I'm going to wipe out whatever it is that I've just charged. It is worth noting that the stratagem, the Voice Eater ability that shuts off their stratagems, can't be used on monsters and vehicles, so be careful with that. But that means it can be used on mounted, it can be used on infantry, it can be used on beasts and swarms, it can be used on a lot of data sheets. There's a large section of the meta right now that is going to hate this. They're going to hate it. So as a result, that means we ought love it. And I'm super keen to get these guys on the table and come up with some really, really spicy ways to break enemy combos. All the effort that they put into coming up with the combo on their end, we can just turn it off with these guys. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Nemesis Claw. Do you think this unit is as broken and as game-changing as I think? Or do you think it's a little bit more niche and less likely to come up than I may be, you know, I'm anticipating at this stage? So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor a mad cunt like Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel